Transformation happens here on Unifying Family. Men on Monday, women on Wednesday. Real talk, real issues, real solutions. Unifying Family, building strong families.
Good evening, one and all. Good evening. It's blessings to be men on Monday. We're going to have a good show this evening. In Barbados, we are having our bank holiday. So Kevin, yes, that's why we are over here. So happy that we had some time off from work today. So, and we're gonna have a bank holiday tomorrow too. So for all those listening in different countries and different islands, yes, we have a bank holiday here in Barbados. My name is Sinclair Brown. I'll be hosting this evening, Men on a Monday. I would good evening, Kevin.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, please. Good evening, Pastor Edson. Also, yes, please. And our special guest this evening is Wade Boyce, and we'll be talking about step parenting. This is the man of the hour. This is a guy that I was sharing about all last week. That the guru of step parenting. I know he doesn't like titles, but I'm going to lay on thick. Yes, start step parenting, and as a man, our role and what does that look like? Just to get a little, I know you were listening on the program, but just so we were talking about men and in step parenting relationships. We last week talking about children, how their aspect of it. Now we're actually including, the children in relationship and also looking at blended family. I mean, just looking at somebody that has, been through the process and also now living through the process. So just introduce yourself to us, Wade, and also your family dynamic. Because everybody's knowing us. People are bored of us, so we want to know about you this evening.
Well, guys, thanks for having me on. Greetings to one and all on the broadcast tonight. My name is Wade Boyce. I'm from Barbados. My family, is one in which is special. Is not unique to myself because it's a dynamic which we see throughout history. Step parenting, blended families. A parent dies, remarries, someone remarries, parent gets divorced. Those circumstances happen and we see it all through history. And it's how we handle it. My family is myself and my wife, and we have 7 children between us. I have 4 biological. She also has 4 biological, and we share one of those biological. So the children that come before our marriage and the child that comes after our marriage now.
Give us some ages if you don't mind, Wade.
The ages, the oldest of the children are the 24, 19, 18, 16, 9, 7, and 1. So it's a whole range, a very full cup of tea.
We're laughing that you remember the ages, so you're going through. Trust me, I got 3, and I'd be struggling to remember the ages of those.
Wait, that's more than a cup of tea, man. That's more than a cup of tea. Yeah. You're underrepresenting. You got more than tea. You got the kettle, the pot. You got everything.
Well,
Kevin, you did say you have how many you said again, Kevin? You had I did forget. Sorry.
I have 3.
3?
Just
okay.
3.
Just 3.
Just 3, and that's enough.
Well, guys, I want to say I probably don't wish it on you, but I do wish it on you. It's a fun experience. It's a fun experience.
So the ones that your age groups, what are the ones that are your biological? The first 3.
My biological children are ages 24, 16, 9, and 1.
Okay.
And my wife's biological are 19, girl 19, boy 18, girl 8, and the 1-year-old that we share together.
Interesting.
That is the structure.
Sinclair, I want to ask Ray a question.
Go ahead, go ahead.
How did you prepare prior to coming into a blended family? You know, was there premarital counseling? Was there what kind of discussions you and your partner would have had at the time? So let's start there.
I would say the preparation didn't start with me and my wife. The preparation started really when I look back at my mother. My mother, unfortunately, just passed away on the 19th of this month. But she too, she was the first of a family of 14, and she was the one. Her mom died, so she came into a sort of blended family with her dad's wife and their children. So being a dynamic where there's a lot of family members around, it was not strange to me to find myself in a situation where and my dad also too came from a large family, also to 10 siblings also. So I think that prepared me somewhat because, on weekends, every weekend, I actually saw my aunts and uncles. We visited them every weekend for many, many years. So a dynamic of seeing lots of members of the family at one household interacting together was common for me. So that's how it started for me. And the actual preparation, no, I think the preparation really comes from being really intentional. Very, very, especially comes to a blended family, being very, very intentional in your actions. And the reason I say that is that even in meeting my stepchildren's dads, I would have been very intentional and putting my hand out there and saying who I am and interact with them very intentionally. I think that's the best way to go. Be very intentional about what you intend to do to produce the results that you do want. So that was my approach to this blended family arrangement.
Give us an idea when you talk about stretching out your hand, because we did discuss this in programs of respecting another person, at least. Well, we did look at it from the biological dad respecting the stepdad position. But how did you reach out, recognizing that this is very ticklish, right? Very ticklish situation. So just asking, so there was so it's more than one. I think your last post last
Yeah,
week.
there's more than one.
There's more than one dad. Yes, yes. So
yeah.
discuss that with us to help us. So,
I can give you an
help us
example of
understand.
how that played out. I remember distinctly, one of my stepchildren's family member had died, and I intentionally went to the funeral where I interacted then at a time, even at the wake with her dad, and that kick-started our relationship to the point where, I mean, there were times when the 18-year-old, so he was 16 at that time, was ill, and I would take him to the hospital, and me and his dad would have met at the hospital, to make sure he was okay. So is that reaching out and being intentional, being responsible, seeing the child as part of your family. So that's how it played out with me in terms of going out there and intentionally being part of things that are going on that affected the children. The children would have experienced a loss. Myself being the husband of their mother, and I intentionally went out there to the funeral.
So that part you said about the funeral, I think that is very powerful. So make sure I get you. So there's your daughter, which is your wife's daughter, yeah?
Yeah.
Your stepdaughter, which is your daughter
And
son, right?
The
So they had a family member that passed away.
Correct.
Yeah, and you went to the funeral also. So your wife went with you.
Yes.
Okay, this is interesting. So your wife went to obviously a family she was part of, and you went along, and you also interacted with their dad at this funeral.
Yes.
Okay, what sort of mindset would you have? Because I think this is very grown. I think honestly very mature for any human being, to be quite honest, male or female. But I think it's very powerful as a man in our society. One, not to feel, because there's some men that may feel, well, that is your past family.
Mhm.
So why are you going to do your ex's family's funeral? You know, if the children go, you don't have to go. So it's one for the wife to go. The next thing for you to go also, yeah, and also to interact and to engage with the family and him in this time of their sorrow, which is second or third away from you. So tell me, what's your mindset in this particular or what caused you to have this mindset to do something as mature as this?
The mindset that I set out is that it is not going to be our first and last interaction. We have to interact past that time. So there is an opportunity in which, I mean, the children are experiencing grief. They are part of me. I'm part of them. So it was my intent to also prepare the way for future interactions also. So it's not only the present. I think when we live life, we have to be very intentional of taking care not only of the present, but the future. And I, of course, would expect to have to interact with him in the future also, and ongoing all right now. So I think that really set the stage because I can remember coming to me intentionally and saying that he was grateful that I was there. Thanks for coming out.
Pastor Kevin, anything there? I see you smiling. Come on, jump in there. Come tell me. We talk with. So turn your mic and talk to us.
No, I'm actually just soaking it in because Wade is a very mature person. Not many men can do that. And just to even the father, the biological father, he is mature too by just being open and accepting of you being present because sometimes in the midst of grief, I dare to say that it based on how the relationship probably ended, I think that plays a major role in all of this too. How the relationship ended, how the healing process has gone or is going, can open up the door for probably something like this to have happened that Wade experience. Because to tell you the truth, if I am broken over a failed relationship, right? And sometimes we say time heals all wounds, but not necessarily so. Time with deliberate effort heal wounds, right? And so if even if 3 4 years have passed, but I still feel like that woman should still be mine, and you show up at my family funeral, a problem. Because she is always welcome because she's still in my heart. But who are you? You have no attachment to this family. So I did, as I'm saying, that for both parties there has been some great level of maturity that and I probably have dealt with some level of healing on his part so that he could be accepting of you, Wade, being there. And even before you go into the marriage aspect of things, I'd want to know what was the dating process like, because sometimes I feel like we jump the gun and reach a marriage, and how things going on with have gone in some situation concerning the marriage, but the dating process, what was that like? How did the children um play into that, and how and what was the reception of the other parties, the biological father? How did he take that, now that his children are going to be exposed to a man that's not their father? Because that's one of the biggest struggle that I would experience.
Yes. Yes, Kevin, you're very correct in that something had to set the stage for the relationship to take place the way it took place. And one thing I can say is that my wife and even the biological dad have a good working relationship, and even to the point where a good relationship with his fiance also too. And we know each other, and I could meet them for any purpose to pick up anything or to do any delivery for anything at all. So, and even in the dating process, I would have visited the home, probably dropped off one of the kids off at the home. So they would have seen me for a little while doing that. So the funeral was not a big stretch or a big step because it was seeing me interacting before and even interacting with his biological daughter.
If I can go about a little bit before Kevin jump in, because I got some questions, Wade, but I don't know if we can get through all of them. But your mindset was excellent in the dating process, and that's great. But in terms of any premarital counseling, how was that handled before you guys got married? Were the issues addressed of what a blended family would be like and that kind of thing?
Excuse me, just trying to make sure that I don't have any issues with my back. Just trying to make sure. Mhm. Yeah. When it comes to premarital, thanks to St. Clair, we had premarital counseling with St. Clair. But even to set the stage for the relationship, and I say it's all about being intentional. I can remember my wife sending me a questionnaire when we were dating. But what do we expect of a relationship? It's a 25-question questionnaire. And it was very intentional what she expected a man to be for both for herself and the children. So that I can remember that too played a very important part in saying, well, this is the person who you would want to enter such a arrangement with, the maturity level that I saw in her. And then to set the stage even further, then I mean, having the premarital counseling with St. Clair was a blessing. You know, it allowed us to delve into some things, to explore some things in terms of family dynamics, and even where we were at to in terms of our ages, in terms of our health, and all those matters.
Hey, Kevin, you want to jump back in there? I mean, I got other questions, but I want you to flow.
No, continue. I'm just listening to it because one of the things you just said is the age where you both were at.
Yes, I definitely want him to give a age because that is a thing with their dynamic.
Yes,
So
I
yeah, it'd be
feel
great
like
to share
age
that.
does play a big role in maturity as well because you know the Kevin probably 10 years 5 years ago is not the Kevin now, you know. I've learned
Yeah.
a lot of things, and my approach towards dealing with certain situations has changed. You know, my mindset has changed a lot based on experiences. So what age did this happen for you, and how do you think like age would have played a role in how you handle the whole situation?
Well, I am now 54 years of age. We were married in 2021.
Say that
My wife,
again. You're what? 50 what?
53. I'm 53 years of age.
For 53 and having 7 kids, you look good, Bridget. Big up yourself.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. And so, and I think basically even having kids before and having the experiences of going through rises and falling failures, I think played a very integral role. And my wife is now 38 now, and she brought a very sense of good maturity to the relationship also too. I think having the life experiences played a very integral role in being able to adjust to, as you say, to step children. And I still go back to the point of being intentional because, and I think intentional is very critical because if you intend for something to succeed, you put the effort in to make sure it does succeed. You do your research, you look at your failures, and look at how you can do better going forward.
Two things. You mentioned the age difference. 'Cause- and let's say without children at all. Let's say without any children. The age difference that you have, that can be a pro or con. I mean, it can be a benefit, it could be a challenge. So even without the children, um, that is one of the things I wanted to ask first. You challenge failures. Do you mind sharing your failures in the past and what can you gain the wisdom from those failures? So one, the difference in age, because that is a 16-year difference, I think, if I do my math correct. And 15, 16. And then even failures, how has that assisted you even now to gain all this wisdom? Not sure. He's probably stuck there.
Yeah.
So we join back in. So
Mhm.
I mean, what are your thoughts so far? We heard this dynamic, the maturity, as I told y'all, and we've never touched where the actual biological children of some children they go together. So they actually bring acts with their biological child and their spouse's child and take the child out. So that we've never got there yet, but that is a dynamic way it is in. So tell me, Kevin, you're just sitting there listening to this. Like, is this possible? Is this real? This is a TV program.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible. But I like what Wade has been saying in that he
My apologies,
keeps
gentlemen.
focusing
I had a blip in my transmission.
where he keeps saying intentional, intentional. Many times we go in and we are not intentional. But he also said something: research and intentional. And I had a failed marriage, right? And I had a blended family situation. But one of the things in retrospect I will say is that I did not do research as to what a blended family looked like. Even though I experienced that because I grew up with a stepfather, very awesome man, grew up with a stepfather, and always told myself that if I should become a stepdad, I want to be just like mine. I want to be an awesome example, a good man to this child, and all of these things. But the temperament between my stepfather and me are two different people, you know? We're two different people. And
Mhm.
so it is with my mother and my ex wife, right? So when you put those different factors together, it would have been necessary for me to do research. Plus, there was cultural differences. Imagine coming from the same culture, you can already have problem. Oh, we are now bringing a different culture, so two different cultures together, and two different experiential background, and all of these different factors. I should have done my research and I didn't. So when stuff did not was not looking like how I grew up experiencing it, I was asking myself, what did I get myself into? Right? Because I grew up with an experience that my stepfather was awesome. I'm like, okay, I want to be this guy and all of these things. But then when growing up in Jamaica, the way we were disciplined by with a step parent or parent, there was not much difference, right? My stepdad had the authority given by my mom to discipline me the way a biological father would discipline me. So if I need to get a couple licks, I'm gonna get a couple licks, you know. But in the Canadian culture, you give your children time out and you speak to them and you say, go to your room. And all of these, so all of these different things played into that, and not being knowledgeable. How to navigate through it was somewhat problematic. So now I'm hearing you've had the experience, you know, you and your wife are from the same culture, all of these things. But for when I think about that, and still how you have navigated to bring merge two families together with so many children, because the, this is no ordinary feat, you know. Big up yourself, Richard. Big up yourself. This is no
Big
ordinary
up,
feat. Because
big up, big up, big up, big up.
one child, one child, even a biological child, is enough stress, especially when they're boys, and you're talking about seven. Big up yourself. Go,
But
go take-
I can jump in here and I can say it. It is not easy, you know. Don't everyone think it's easy.
Wait,
It's not
wait, no,
easy to
listen,
do,
take the compliment. Listen,
right? It's
having
not
no
easy.
children and being married is difficult. You understand? Having
I
one
I can
biological
give an
child,
example.
right?
Yeah, I can
Before
give
you
an
go to the
example
example,
of,
before you go to the
sorry
example,
about
before
this.
you example, I just want to go because people are asking about this age difference. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah,
Just
good.
the age difference alone, you must understand. If you're going to get your flowers, get your flowers. Come
Yes.
somebody, if you do wrong, trust me, it hit you hard. So take your flowers, my brother. So tell us about the dynamic of just having the 16-year difference. That
Mhm.
alone is a dynamic.
Mhm.
It's almost like two different eras of sorts. And we've not
Well,
added the children yet. But tell me
yes.
about that a little bit.
But the dynamic, how it worked, and as I mentioned just now, I mentioned in terms of my wife approached me with a questionnaire about relationships and expectations in marriage. That is not something you normally see at all. I can tell that impressed me. I sit up and I took note. I answered the questionnaire, I sent her back, and she answered it and sent it to me too. And when we compared what we had both said without coercion, we felt that we could give this a go. I saw in her a level of maturity that told me, yes, this is one in which we can make a step forward. And that is something that I took note of immediately as it happened. I've never seen it before, so I grabbed it with both arms. But I can go on a bit even to share a bit of the dynamic when we were about to get married. We call the kids, and actually, in fact, even when I wanted to propose to my wife, my son and some friends helped us to plan the proposal. So the children were involved. The ones that who could keep a secret were involved in the proposal also. When we were about to let them know that we were going to have a child, we invited everyone to the home. We had pizza, and we tell them, yes, we're going to have a child. And we asked them to share exactly how you felt, regardless if you were upset, you were happy, you were joy. And all persons shared from the heart. It was not all pleasing, but they shared how they felt about it. And I can say, you know, some of the persons who expressed disappointment or worry are the ones though that I can't get them to keep their hands off the little one. So I think sometimes when it comes to children, we sometimes put ourselves in a position where we take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And we even when some children are upset with you because you may have said something that they may not like, sometimes we want to take it to heart. I tell people, don't take it to heart. You're expressing how a child feels. They may say, well, I don't like you today. Do not take it to heart. You're just speaking out the mouth of a babe. Tomorrow they jump and hug you up and kiss you up the next day. You know, and I've experienced that even with the stepchildren. They say, well, you know.
But you
So
see something you said there, and I want to cut other things I want to touch on. You see what you just said there, I think is very profound. Yes. One, you did give your children a voice, so you didn't ignore for them not to speak. But
yes.
still, at the same time, it wasn't that you didn't consider their feelings, but they were not a determining factor on the
No.
decision making. And I
No.
think that is, I would love to just get this program just filtered across the world, because so many people say, oh, if my child don't like the person, then they out to sea. And to me, that's the most stupid thing I've ever heard in my life. But I do agree that that's if you don't make wise decisions, because a 6-year-old child has no idea about what is 26, 36 looking like. And the mere fact we put that amount of weight on a decision making, and as you said, a child is a child.
Child is a child.
And the child changes mind. Today want to be a fireman, tomorrow want to be a dinosaur. Like, are we serious about this? Right? So I like the fact that you were willing to let them have a voice and not fix them, but allow them to share in the experience. And I think questions, I mean, someone did say also, Wade, I think you need to seriously consider this, that you need to write a book. I mean, like, so serious. I think this book will help so many of our kingdom citizens and others. But you need to write a book. It was stated, Brent Carter said, that you have a wealth of experience and knowledge that can help many families. Yeah, and I'm saying that I think we all are here. People that are listening are in awe of the wisdom, knowledge, and the maturity they have. Now, I wanted to share on your failures. Yeah, so Kevin did mention, he was divorced before. If you don't mind mentioning your past, it may not be going there too deep, but it helps us to understand that because some people go through challenges, it doesn't mean that is the end.
Yes. So just like Kevin too, I too was divorced, and it was not an easy divorce. It came with financial separation and financial burdens. But what I can say today is that it's very amazing that my ex-wife now, she supports the relationship we have. I mean, to the point where, I mean, there was a one point in time where my biological daughter was disrespectful to me. And she brought her over at 14 years of age and said to her, listen, this household is where you stay at times, and you must respect your dad and his wife. And she said that in front of her. And that's coming from a place where, I mean, they said it was a failed marriage, but one can see that even though that there's even maturity even between us in the failed situation, And I can tell just recently we both attended my daughter's graduation last week. It was an enjoyable experience. Both went and celebrated her graduation. So I mean, there are failures in life that we have. But I say sometimes we take ourselves too seriously, that we drown ourselves in our failures rather than trying to find a way out, a way forward, not only for ourselves but for our children that are present and involved in the relationship also.
So that dynamic, talk about the failures. I'm going to pass some Edson just okay. He had several questions. So we have the experience of the difference in age. So I'm hoping. You say she came with a questionnaire. Yeah. Yeah. She came with a question, which is wisdom. I think it's wisdom. Women should come prepared. I don't think because a man is nice is a qualification for husbandry. It is stupid once again. We need to get rid of stupidity in the kingdom of God. Right? So the thing is, she came with a questionnaire. I was sharing with the marriage ministry yesterday. There's a difference between a woman and a wife. And many times we try to marry a woman and make her a wife, and that may or may not happen. What made you see that she was in a wife stage? Because say that he that finds a wife finds a good thing. I made some age difference here now. Apart from the questionnaire, I mean, people that recognize there's an age, but and that be a challenge. But what was the thing that helped y'all to merge, although we have these age differences?
And I can say, I know my wife doesn't mind me saying this because sometimes her daughter will say it to her too. My wife is a young old soul. that she has a lot of, we call the old school mentality from her mom and stuff like that. So although she is biologically younger, I can say at times the way she thinks about life sometimes, I mean, is way up there, way up there. So we tease her sometimes that she's an old soul and that she has that old school, old soul mentality about life. Not that she didn't too have her failures, but I think even to mention the question again, that she recognized that she was not about to step off the bus and fall in the road again. And she decided that this is the approach she would have. She was not going to have any relationship unless there were some things that were known up front. You know, so I honestly think that is that characteristic that she had of having that maturity about not only about marriage but about life, about children and life and relationships and how they may go. And
Wait,
she
did
availed
she come from a large family also?
she comes from a large family also too.
Okay, that would help. Okay, cool.
I mean, she's the
Yeah.
second child of a large family.
Okay. Yeah, so she did have that mothering, like Adam said to Eve, a mother of all. So she already had that motherly nature coming in. Pastor Ed, so do you have anything to inquire about?
So Wade, in terms of the children that live with you, how many children are in the household?
At times they're 4 to 5, but the older ones, for example, my 24 lives, and 18 lives, and 1 year old. But there's an ebb and flow between the 19, she comes over, my 16-year-old comes over. So from week to week, my 8-year-old and the 9-year-old comes week on, week off. They're here for a full week at a time. So there's an ebb and flow, the dynamic that's always fluctuating. In one point in time, there will be four to 5 persons here at one point in time.
All right. No, there's some pretty wide ages between the children. So how do you deal with that dynamic? I mean, you got from 24 all the way down to 1. So that's a real big gap in between there. So how do you manage that? How does your wife manage that? Tell us.
I think it gives us breathing room, though. The age differences between a good breathing room, where we can expect some mature behaviors from the older ones, and the behaviors relevant to the ages from the younger ones. So, for example, when it comes to, we say to the kids intentionally, Thursday night we're going out. No questions asked. We're gone. Bye. And someone will keep the young one. And there's no real grumbling, you know. There may be questions about where you're going, so we are going out. See y'all when we get back.
So wait, then that's an important part of even a blended family. You guys need time for yourself, yeah.
That is something that we don't compromise on at all. At all, even when it comes to our privacy, or we don't compromise at that at all. It is our space and our time. See you guys later. And they've gotten to understand that that's the way it will work, you know. So we put the relationship first.
Yeah.
Before the children.
And then I'm going to turn over to Minister Kevin. But what have been some of the major challenges in adapting to a blended family? Yeah, you said it wasn't always easy, but what did you find to be those major challenges?
Well, I will start from the least, and the least being, for example, my older stepdaughter, she was not accustomed to me. It took some warming, you know. The times I was dropping her to school, at times we would talk a lot. I know, you know, she warmed up. I know she would tease me if she feels like anytime at all. Even when my slow driving at times, she would tease me at times. So the challenge with the younger ones is that, for example, like ages 8 and 9, competition, you know, my dad is better than you and better than your dad and things like that, you know. And sometimes let them work it out. Let them quarrel and work it out. I know they're happy to go together. But of course it was challenging because there'd be a lot of complaining. This body did this, this body did that, you know. But I say, you know, when kids are on the playground, they work it out. So give them the space to work it out. And they negotiate between them in terms of their leadership, they negotiate. So don't try to get too involved in it, but it's not that so easy because sometimes you see things that you're not accustomed to, behaviors, maybe a tantrum that you're not accustomed to. And sometimes you may be tempted to, mommy, come deal with this. But No, they can handle it, and they may be upset faces, upset voices. But like I said earlier, they're children. They're upset today, and tomorrow, Daddy, with my breakfast. I thought we didn't speak last night, so
Wait, that brings me to another thing too. Because in blended families, there's always the issue of what to call the step parent. So how did you navigate that?
well, I let them decide what they want. Usually is Daddy Wade. They will call me Daddy Wade. So I let them decide. I've never pushed it in terms that you must call me father or things like that. No, they decide there. I think they're mature enough to decide how they would call me, what they would call me. Even the little
So
ones.
my question is, so how do you conduct the disciplining of the children with biological and your stepchildren? Like, because like I said, you're having a stepdad. Um, if I compare the way I was to the way my older brother was, we were two different people. I was more compliant. He was a little bit more on the pushback side. You know, how do you deal with the discipline when knowing that these some of these children are not biologically yours? How do you feel that you control your tone, how you express yourself to your stepchildren versus your biological children, stuff like that? What was the discipline like?
Again, I can speak from you from the older, very intentional. So if I have to say something to my older son, who's 24 now, I would say the same thing, probably to suit the younger age to the 18-year-old. And I expect that he may get upset. My son gets upset, but they're growing and they're developing. So I don't get too perturbed when there's pushback or there's upset. So I don't try to say, okay, look, I'll treat one different. At first, it took some negotiating though, even with the younger ones, because you be tempted at times to say, Mom, I don't want to have the issues with the stepdad, so you handle the discipline of the little one. But she said to me more than once, then you can handle it, you know. And I am not one who's worried about if stepdad will be upset. And there are times where I may have heard stepdad say how he felt about things, but I don't lose sleep over it because he is dad. He should be worried. I expect him to be worried and say something. So I expect that there may be some level of pushback, maybe even from stepdad, if discipline occurs and the child goes and says to the stepdad, well, this occurs or that occurs. So I expect that will happen. But it's not something I lose sleep over to worry about. But I try to make sure that I treat them the same way I will speak to the older one, the same age range, and to my youngest son who's 9, and with the 8-year-old girl, his stepdaughter, I discipline the same way.
You
I'm
just
not I'm not a person. Be careful. I'm not a person who would, I'll be saying the Caribbean share lashes, but I know that I'm wise enough to say something that you will think about very, very carefully of what I said.
One of the powerful things that you just said is the mother saying, handle it, you deal with it. you
Yeah.
know I
Mhm.
think one of the struggles with cope with blended family is that release that sometimes either parent, whether the woman or the man, is looking for from the other parent to say, I have your back, I support you on this. So if you are doing the disciplining of the child, it's one voice.
Mhm.
So growing up, I used to say to my mom, I said, I've never heard you and my dad arguing growing up as kids.
Mhm.
Anything that my mom said, that's what my dad said also. If God forbid if my mom said kill him, then my dad is gonna do it. That's what my mom said, and vice versa. And it she would, now that we're adults, she would share with me that yes, we disagreed. We had disagreement, but we would wait until you guys are asleep. We go
Yes.
to a room, and she would be mad at him and say, "You never have to hit him so hard. You never had to say that." But we didn't hear it. They wait until deep in the night when we were sleeping, And I find it that takes a lot of maturity, because what we have now are parents arguing in front of the children.
Mhm. Yeah,
And so
we have those discussions also too. We have those discussions where we will have them at night after we've represented each other, And to be fair, there are times where I felt uncomfortable too when we first started with my wife to spend my son, my biological son. But I went to my room and shut my door and let her handle it. So she has to do it sometimes, so I let her handle it.
that's commendable. That's very
Mhm.
commendable, because that's one of the biggest challenges. I have known of cases where the the stepdad would try to discipline the sons, and the mother would jump in and say, "Don't talk to my son like that. Don't talk to my son. It's my child. I will discipline my child. Don't," right in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Who are you to talk to my child like that? So that for me takes away a lot of respect that the child should have for the step parent. So whenever now there is a disagreement or an issue, that child always will feel like their biological parents is going to have their back. So I commend your wife for being able to say to you in those cases, and you as well, to say handle it, because if we're going to spend the rest of our lives together, then we have to be comfortable with and trusting of each other that whatever we're doing is always going to be for the best interest of the child, including discipline.
I can say too, even when we are dealing with my oldest son is 24. I mean, we had a circumstance in which she saw something that she didn't think was right, and she said that she's gonna call him meet him. And when I got home, she said, "Well, she's ready." She said, "Okay, I'll call him." And she called him. We sat there, and she spoke, and he understood. He said, "Yes, he realized that she's not blind and she can see. She observed. She let him know what she observed, and I know he was shocked at first, but she is the woman of the house. I gave her the function. She is the function also too.
I like what you say there, Wade, that she's the woman in the house. And it goes back to what Sinclair would have said, that the children don't actually run things. Their input, yes, you want their input, but at the same time, they have to understand, as it were, the rules of engagement. There's a family unit, this is how we roll, this is how we have to operate, and that kind of thing. So I like that whole concept, the family meeting and
Yeah.
putting things in place. That's very good.
That was where go back to the word intentional. So it was intentional that she played a part because we are trying to create a dynamic that our children in their future self, when they go on in life, that they can have an example to see that how things can be done and function. And I heard Kevin speak that's not about the idea of arguing in front of the children, right? I don't think we should argue against each other in front of the children in terms of like, okay, she this and she that, or how and discipline. But I think it's healthy also for the kids to see us disagree and come back together. So if may say
I
something
want to
that
repeat
not,
that, Wade. I think that is very powerful. I want you to really flesh out a little bit.
yeah, I think it's important that children see us disagree. I too did not never saw I saw my dad and mom argue once, and by night they were all made up and stuff like that. But it's important that children see the dynamic of disappointment and disagreement and a healing also too, done in a respectful way and a way we still honor each other. Because where else are they going to have an opportunity to see how you can come from down the valley back up to the mountain? Where else can they see about in the family structure? I agree with you that Kevin, that we should not get to the point where when it comes to discipline, that we are saying one thing and something else. That is confusion. But healthy disagreements and arguments should still happen to respectfully, where children can see the interplay between the husband and wife and how they sort it out and stuff like that. Even if they come and say to the kids later, we had a discussion and it was something that was not thing, and I shouldn't have argued, I shouldn't have said something. So they can see dad or mom apologizing
Yes,
to
yes,
each other.
yes, 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 yes. I so agree with that. Yeah.
Man, trust me, I'm learning a lot from you, Bridget, because that perspective is something that many of us don't think about. And one of the things that, no, you saying this is very eye opening to me, because one of the things that I experienced was that when myself and my wife had our first argument, I thought my marriage was over.
Kevin, keep your thoughts there, right? And that's one of the things I say to people when my first early set of relationships, because living in a household with women, it was mother, sister, and grandmother. My job as the male in the house was to leave home, right? When they started to argue, I left home. So similar to you, Kevin, when I go in a relationship and we started to argue, my first thing is this done. And I'm
Yeah,
so serious. My brain on my says this is not working. This is finished. So
yeah,
continue, Kevin. I want to say that I was in the same camp as you.
yeah. So I felt that way. And I went to my mother and I said, I can't do this. I can't do this marriage thing, because I've never heard you and dad arguing, never, not one
Mhm.
time. And now all I seem to do is argue. But then she explained to me that we did argue. It's just that we didn't do it in front of you guys as kids. So what you're saying to me makes a lot of sense, in that children need to see healthy dialogue happening between both parties, that yes, we can disagree on an issue, but that doesn't mean we're going to fall apart.
Mhm.
It's just a natural thing in life, right? Where
Mhm.
people have difference of opinion, and that help them to also be able to deal with things realistically. That even among siblings, they're having disagreement. It doesn't mean that they're no longer siblings. It just means that you deal with the issue and become friends again, and you're still family. So I like that. And like I said, eye opening. I like that. Eye
Because we've
opening.
also said to each other, we will disagree, and we expect to disagree. First thing, you are not me and not you, so we expect disagreement is how you solve it. So we've intentionally said, I will not always agree with you. Hell no.
It's the
It's
thing
not gonna
that you and your wife have, and I'm serious. This is if I get a poster and just stick two people on there, be you and your wife. What I'm saying is that many people, and I'm serious, we have women, child, woman, mother, wife, and same in man, child, man, father, husband. Where you found as a husband, you were looking for a wife. The dynamic that you and your wife have is something called maturity. As you said, intentionality. One of the things I normally say to people that marriage is for mature people. I don't care how much you care about this. I love each other. Leave that at your door. People come and says, "Oh, the Lord is." Leave that at my door. Let's have a discussion. You understand? Because anybody can say the Lord anything. Let's have a discussion. And in mere fact that your wife doesn't is not tender, she's not oversensitive. She can be present. I'm just saying, because it may think she will feel disrespected or
Mhm.
feel shorted or slighted, or you are talking to her child too hard, or you hear her child too hard, and she didn't disconnect, disassociate, shut down, walk away. Because that's what caused a lot of men not to want to move forward or stay in a relationship also. I mean, because that's why it's so amazing to so many of us. Now listen, because there's so many complexions and difficulties in here. But even in mere fact, your wife said, listen, my oldest son, my stepson did something. I want to have a meeting. She didn't just say, Wade, You son do say you better talk to me and disappear in the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you want to talk to me? That's why I got name more the city boy, because that is your child. She didn't do that. And that is the main thing when a woman child is in a space, she's still oversensitive. She's ready to disconnect, walk away. She's still in trauma. They call that thing of when children kick up a fuss. You know what I'm saying to you? Yeah. And they do this tantrum stage. She didn't kick a tantrum. She says, wait, yeah. And when we came home, here's the meeting. And she's willing to cheer the meeting.
She chaired the meeting?
She's willing to cheer the meeting and not walk away. At the same time, not disconnect from this child that's not biological hers. That is
Because
a woman
it's very easy to
honor.
disconnect. It's very easy to disconnect, you know, and not saying that she would not be tempted to,
Of
because
course.
in sharing personal times you felt like you would disconnect. But I say that this is not going to work if it is one person's effort. We have to be both intentional and be able to handle issues that necessarily are a bit, not abnormal, but challenging.
Yes, please.
They're going to take you out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
Because it's comfortable to leave your own kids.
Of course.
At some times.
There's something you mentioned earlier. We're coming down to the end, though.
We are coming down to the end. Yeah.
I just want to toss and pass by and let you do the last. You mentioned something protecting your space. I don't want to leave it out talking. Give it a quick, because I know you're very intentional about your bedroom. Your bedroom, that is a sanctification area. So it's 7 children. Tell them about your bedroom and the rules, and then I'm done. Pass by them.
It is not accidental. We have said to the kids, and in pun and fun, this is not a space for vagrants. There's no hanging around here. You know, you can hang around your room, you knock, you stay, because we intend to protect our space, and that did not come out of a vacuum. I think sometimes when we as Christians have moved forward in terms of bringing the idea of God into our hearts, we left the whole idea of altars and setting spaces of hierarchy of importance so that our kids can see. And I bring the example of a home. A home may have what we call a patio, where you may greet strangers. The home also has a living room where you may intentionally bring persons into the living room, and a space of dining space. If you look carefully at how the temple of God is set up, there is spaces for those on the outside. There's a place intentionally for the most holy of holies. And in doing that, what we are doing really truly is showing physically, and to me, it teaches children to respect themselves if you have places that are things that are sacred. I remember as a child, you didn't venture into your parents' room like that uninvited, or your grandparents' room uninvited, because there was something mysterious about the room, something that was sanctified about the room. You may peep in when they're not home, but you wouldn't just rush into it. I think we're losing that. Yes, we're placing the altars of God in our heart, but we must also place them in structures too that children can see that there are levels of importance, that everything is not on the same level, everything is not the same, every space is not the same. And that is why we intentionally set out to say, this space, we're going to protect it, both in terms of privacy and in terms of also making sure that children can see that there is a place that is sacred. And they can bring that same level of respect even to their own, in terms of their own body. You know, you can shake hands with someone, you can greet someone, but you're not intimate with everyone. You know, so it's setting that up too in structures, even in the home. And you look at the home is set up the same very way, you know. Look at how you greet strangers, the home is set up the same very way. Strangers you greet on the outside. The most holiest of holiest place is your intimate space. And that is why we intentionally did it.
Wow. That deep way, you know, and the thing I like about everything that you've been saying this evening, there's such a balance between the marriage and the children. You have the priority on the marriage, because some people, they neglect the marriage, and then there's some people that neglect the children. And to be able to blend the two, where you're focused on your marriage, but you're still focused on making sure that your children are in a healthy environment. That's powerful. Yeah, that's real important right there. So can't add anything more than that. What you say, turn back over to Sinclair. But really excellent insights tonight.
Thank you.
So yes, please. I mean, there's so much we want to share. We want to ask, but I think Wade, honestly, you've left us in awe. I'm sure Kevin, you're in awe. Sure, Pastor Edson, you're in awe. I'm sure Brian Calder, I saw him writing. I mean, and that is our producer this evening. We hardly hear anything about Brian. Brian would text and he sends message this evening. Wade, honestly, in the kingdom of God, it was only time my wife this evening that, you know, we do a lot of things in the kingdom of God with lack of knowledge, and we allow our Christianity to remain stupid. And I mean, we allow ourselves not to learn, to be educated, not be intentional. We hide behind the mask of our religion and our denomination. And we are not getting that place where we are using God's wisdom to be profound and to manifest itself. So I'm giving you honestly, I'm giving you real serious honor as a person have to deal with this 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I'm saying to you, Wade and your wife, you know, we can keep you in prayers and protect your family, because this example I want to say is Brian Calder said, honestly, I think you need to really document this. The rules are put in place. There are publishers out there if you want to seriously sit down with your wife, you, and it takes Pastor Edson is also a good person that you can speak to as far as narrating. He typing it out. He has a fee with that. But I'm saying to you, this is a wonderful evening, my brother. It leaves us feeling so good in our hearts to hear a man having the maturity, the wisdom, and the stewardship for his family. You are a father. You are a father. And I think on Unifying Families, I think Marissa will be quite pleased also to hear this program. So from all of us, the entire team, we thank you, Wade. We thank you for all the awesome persons listening. We want you to share this, save it, play it in your church, play it with a set of people, have a discussion, write down these points, implement it into your family. I want to say on behalf of Men on Monday, see you next week, Monday at 7:30. Blessings in the name of Jesus.
Transformation happens here on Unifying Family. Men on Monday, women on Wednesday. Real talk, real issues, real solutions. Unifying Family, building strong families.